portfolios promoting emergency aid critical care, academic practice investment in Ethiopia. So let's build up on our momentum, which can yesterday actually engage in vital discussions over the community.
These programs are designed with the full spectrum of emergency and critical care in our region. We begin with our sponsors, followed by a scientific exchange and collaborative projects, and our data and partnerships are found in emergency care. We begin today with our sponsor session, please welcome Dr. Masai, clinical application specialist of Niger, followed by Dr. Samuel from Elanco Biomedical Solutions. They will be sharing insights on technologies and solutions that directly support emergency and critical care practice. Please join me in welcoming now.
Good morning, Ali. Let's go to Mr. Palari. Currently, I'm serving as mind-based clinical application specialist, basically for patient monitoring. At Mindray, we have different departments. The laboratory department, imaging, and one of the departments is patient monitoring and life support, which covers general wards, the ICUs, the emergency, and pre-hospital care. So thank you again for coming today, respected colleagues, former mentors, and ECT members. So as Ethiopia currently is leveraging or progressing to digital health transformation, such integration of connectivity of devices is critical, especially for the ICUs, the pre-hospital care, and the emergency department. So at Mindray, we see ourselves not only as a device manufacturer, but also a partner in building such smart hospitals. So smart hospitals is in a sense of connectivity, interoperability, data-driven, and scalable hospitals. So today, our focus on the ICU department, basically, but our comprehensive product solutions covers different departments. From the first one, you can see that is the pre-hospital care, either air rescue or ambulance transport. We have dedicated defibrillators with a manual or automated defibrillators and portable or transport mechanical ventilators, which can stay a longer time or cope up with different environments as well. So when the patient comes to the ICU or the emergency department, we have intra-hospital transport ventilators and patient monitors as well. In the collaborative environment, we have surgical units, breathing anesthesia machines that are on outside, and also the operating tables and the lights. In the laboratory, we have biochemistry and hematology analyzers, and also now in the Ethiopian market as well, we have been introducing this endoscopic camera system, which is used for minimal invasive surgeries. And also, we are coming in the future with orthopedic equipment as well. So having such comprehensive devices for one single hospital, 10 years ago, we have been awarded having this comprehensive solution. One solution or one stop approach is now the current approach. Having such comprehensive products help us in the integration of devices that we are going to discuss in the next few slides. So before going to the ICU department, you can see that here this is how our different medical devices support in the emergency department is a pre-hospital care. So the main challenge is that emergency, as you know, globally is delay. So delay of information, whether the patient is being transferred from different hospital to our hospital, there's always a delay of information, what's happening in between before coming to our hospital. Even after arrival, there's always a delay in diagnosis and treatment due to different factors, due to many factors. So we have, as you know, cerebral paralysis commonly around 2-3% of patients outside the hospitals. So we supply this public AEDs in different areas, in the public spaces, in transport areas, airports, in schools, and also in buildings, which is fully automated. So which has graphical figures on the screen so that non-professionals can use it even for automated defibrillation. After the patient is within the ambulance transport, this is our defibrillator, which, as you can see, every information can be transferred to dedicated hospital or the hospital where the service is available for the specific patients. So you can see that here, this is a multi-talent or PCC defibrillator. It has 12 lead ECG, so it acts as a full ECG device, and it has also this fixed electro ultrasound system, and it has the basic functions like any defibrillator, the manual and automated defibrillation function, and also the basic function. So this is literally having 4 different devices in one equipment. So this way, you can see that after the patient also arriving in the hospital, we have this N1 transport monitor, which can be removed from the defibrillator and integrated to the patient monitor. Every monitoring function that has been done outside of the hospital can easily transfer to the emergency patient monitoring devices. So this one is also a dedicated transport ventilator that, as I said earlier, the battery can stay for more than 11 hours. It can adapt a temperature as high as 50 degrees Celsius and as low as negative 20 degrees Celsius, and water splashes like that can resist. So this is more suitable for air rescue and ambulance transport. So when we come to the ICU, as you can see, there are a comprehensive portfolio that will be used in the ICU department. This one is SCP-300 ventilator that you can see in the outside and at the booth. This one is SCP-600 ventilator that is now being installed in different hospitals, in Addis and regional hospitals. Also, this patient monitors and the infusion pump is also available in the ICU. So when we talk about intelligent and smart ICUs, you might wonder, is it right time to discuss about smart or intelligent ICUs in our hospital? Because we have more as a concerns, right? Our equipments, there's a frequent breakdown of equipment due to different factors, as I said. But still, we have high patient to ICU ratio, and our ICUs are limited, so we need to utilize them effectively. And the number of professionals is limited, as you know. So for proper utilization of this limited base and professionals, we need a support from IT solutions, different IT solutions. So that's what we are going to discuss now. So starting from 1950s, you remember that. So our previous mechanical ventilators were negative pressure ventilators. So the patient will put on the big boxes to create a negative pressure. In that way, it's always difficult to examine the patient and also for the patient to move and to be able to. We can't also have examples before 1950s. So after 1960s, this positive pressure ventilators that we are using currently is now introduced. But still, in one ICU, if you have seen, there are a lot of equipment. The infusion pumps, the ventilator, the patient monitors, inflators. So what if we integrate them, all of those equipments? In that way, we can easily have a comprehensive data so that we can pick early declaration as early as possible. I hope the connection will improve. So that was now the current era is connectivity of devices. That's what we want to discuss now. So when we talk about the challenges, as I said, there's a lack of adequate professionals and there's a lack of also advanced equipment. So Mindray as a solution, we brought what if we increase the comprehensive monitoring parameters on our medical devices. That's one of the solutions. The other is what if we added the clinical assistive applications. As you have seen at the booth, we have added now comprehensive parameters that we are using on the papers to the monitors as 24-hour ECG summary. Now, the FE burden or PVC burden can be easily monitored on the patient monitor. So if we miss some ST elevation on the outpatient monitors, it will pick up and report to us after 24 hours. In that way, even if some of the information is lost due to high flow pressure later on. So this is the previous mechanical ventilators before 1950s. Now we apply all of the devices into one screen. So we have the patient and a single screen. We don't have to go to one the ventilator, patient monitor, and infusion pump. In that way, it's also dual function. One can remotely change the infusion rate without going to the infusion pump. So these are the challenges that we are facing now in the ICUs. So the solutions. So before going to the solution, you can see this a lot of those challenges becoming to realities now. So this the first study is high mortality, as you can see, 36%. This study was done in the Rohan Hospital. That's a retrospective heart study. And also half of the patients in ICU have mitral valve dysfunction. That increases the complexity. So there's always multidisciplinary management that always increase the complexity of our diagnosis and treatment in the ICU. So these are the solutions that we are providing to the medical community here in Ethiopia. So increasing the compression parameters, and also increasing the positional or monitoring functions, as well as adding the clinical assistive applications. So this is multi-organ compressive parameters. As you can see, we have a number of cardiac output monitoring tools, either from invasive to non-invasive one. So this ICG is non-invasive monitoring of cardiac output by placing the electrodes here in the standard one, cardiac output, the invasive one, so catheterization of the right atrium. Also, we have flow track to be used for cardiac monitoring non-invasively. So that works for neurology and respiratory system as well. So this is now when you talk about assistive applications, we have additional tools. So this one, what we see here is the SOFA for now integrated to the patient monitoring system. So we can connect our monitor to the laboratory information system. We can take information and integrate to the patient monitor. In that way, first the monitor will analyze the two SOFA, then transfer in the increased scoring system, transfer to the SOFA score. In that way, it will minimize the workload to the physicians and also increases the safety and early detection of sepsis. So after, let's say, after detection of sepsis, this is the graphic indication of how every organ system is acting. So on the right side, this is during diastolic phase and systolic phase. So it shows the volume, the contractility, and the volume present in the cardiac. And also you can see that in the lungs, the presence of extravascular fluid level. So in this way, it will make the user interface easier for the physician and the staff to follow the outcome after management. So as I said earlier, the infusion view, it shows every parameter changes graphically, and also we can manage the infusion rate remotely as well. This is the scoring system that we are using currently, and we have shown outside as well. The early warning score in this field for ECG summary. So as I said, we have just a shortage of staff, yes, but that also affects the quality of medical care we are giving. As you can see from this study, patients in ICU with a nursing shortage are about 30% more likely to develop infection than well-equipped, well-staffed hospital. So that's one of the challenges we are facing. So the solution we are providing is to make our patient monitors and other devices to be user-friendly, so that let's say, every setting within our patient monitors can be accessed within 2 steps only. So 90% of every function can be accessed within 2 steps. Because this is capacitive touch screen, it's like a mobile interface, so you can easily access every setting and every parameter. So we have also alarm management, which we can set automatically. There is an auto alarm feature. So after, let's say, the ventilator or the patient monitor analyzes for 1 minute or the first few phrases, then the ventilator can automatically adjust the upper and lower alarm limit. Of course, it needs support from the responsible physician as well, but it can effectively guide the setting of alarms as well. So as the other thing I mentioned earlier was this remote monitoring. As you can see, if there is a hub hospital and a remote hospital at different cities, so they can easily consult what's going on the patient to expertise that's available in different hospitals. With the video access and every parameter can be easily transferred to those hospitals. So that's what we are saying when we say about this connectivity and integration of devices. So this is the challenge. We have many equipments within the ICU. So the solution is integration of all those information again to not only the devices to electronic character of the hospital. So our staff a lot of time, but especially the nursing staff, they spend a lot of time by documentation and transferring the documentation to AMR record. So we can make the life easier for our staff by easily exporting the information to this electronic medical system. Then we can use those data to improve the patient care of the hospital and for research purposes as well, as you can see here. So this is the whole idea. We have the 3-tier system. The first tier system, as you can see here, is integration of each individual devices, then to central monitoring system, then integrating to the third-party system, whether the laboratory information or the imaging, the PAC system. So you might wonder what is the role of AI in the critical care. So in the diagnostic world now is being well used. So it's not launched yet, but this MGPT will help in the future in the diagnosis and treatment decision as well. So this is our comprehensive data and anesthesia profile. So at last, I want to mention that the challenges are beyond only integration, right? So breakdown of medical devices and I talk about stuff. As a solution, basically we are providing and moving to different hospitals at different parts of the country and providing both technical and service as well as clinical training. That's we are considering one of the solution. So thank you very much. As we have a limited time, I was rushing. Thank you. Thank you.
እንደተነገረው አንድ ዶክተር ሳምራዊ ፕሮቲን አንድ ራዲካል ሶሉሽን አማርኛም እንግሊዝኛ እያልን ነው ላስረዳው። ኢላንዶ ባዮሜዲካል ሶሉሽን ከኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ ካሉ ትላልቅ የአስመጪዎች እና ዲስትሪቢዩት ከሚያደርጉ ባዮሜዲካል ሶሉሽን እቃዎችን ከሚያስመጡ ኢንስቲትዩሽኖች አንዱ ነው። ይህ ኢላንዶ ባዮሜዲካል ሶሉሽን ቀደም ዶክተር መሳይ ያላቸው ማሽኖች በማስመጣት ኢንስቶል ማድረግ ልዩ ልዩ ሆስፒታሎች ላይ ሜንቴናንስ መስራት የሚታወቅ ድርጅት ነው። እስከሚሰራ ድረስ ለማውራታችን ነው። ኢላንዶ ባዮሜዲካል ሶሉሽን selling medical equipment solutions, specializing in maintenance, installation, after-sales service, and troubleshooting remote maintenance of the medical equipment, especially in Ethiopia, especially. So we base our services by starting by the maintenance service in different hospitals. As you have seen, where our base was maintenance service for all medical equipment. So as you have seen, these are our biomedical engineers maintaining X-ray machine and installing X-ray machine. As medical professionals, the main challenge in Ethiopia in the world is after-sales service that has been happened, especially in maintenance service. So we are our base mainly maintenance. So the company started its activity established in 2016 by mainly biomedical maintenance service in workshop services, and then in 2016 by the dedicated biomedical engineer media, and then after 4 years, 2020, we started to have established wholesale and start distributing biomedical equipment in all over Ethiopia. And in 2021, we just started to import from high-end to low-end medical equipment and distribute these medical equipment to the country. And after 3 to 4 years, 2021-2024, we diversified our import and distribution of medical equipment in 3 product lines, PMAs, that is patient monitoring and life support equipment that we bring today in the venue, and imaging, which includes profiling to grow in, ultrasound, CT scan, MRI, and other equipment, and the other is laboratory. In all laboratory, from high to low in, we established import service and we open our office in German Square. So all products that have presented found in German Square. So this is our company growth milestone. In addition to that, we have started manufacturing also. We have started manufacturing with IV, stand, trolley, and other local equipment. We have started manufacturing in addition to import wholesale and maintenance services. So our vision is to be the leading provider of medical product supplies, maintenance service, expert consultancy, and in Ethiopia and as well as in Africa. This is our vision. So as I have told you, the main product portfolios we are importing and just starting service is IBD, hematology chemistry, and fluoride aside foundation, and from imaging, MRI, CT scan, X-ray, ultrasound, and other space artists are our product portfolios. The other one is patient monitoring life support, which are presented by Dr. Masai. So these are our product portfolios. In addition to that, we are just serving, before that, most of our products are from well-known global companies and that are high in risk. So mostly they are their user interface, user adaptability, and other other services are very easy, and we are working mainly with Mindray and the other global partners. As you have seen, we are working with all these companies, mainly with Mindray, and this is our motto: quality is the means not end. So quality, it's the means not end. That means we are serving with high quality products and services, and we are giving after-sales services with quality. So when I come to our main brand, the after-sales service department, our service department organized in 3 departments. As I have told you, with IVD or in vitro diagnosis, laboratory products, imaging, and PPD, so patient monitoring laboratory department. So as you have seen, the service department just provides services with installation, after-sales service, remote monitoring, problem solving with ሀኪሞች ቴክኖሎጂ አያውቁም ይኖራልና አስመሰከር እንግዲህ so this is after sales service. These are our engineers who just installed CT scan in different hospitals. So CT scan images. So our business depends on service department. That means we are not merchants, we just buy sold medical equipment. We are professionals who cares about our products and equipment, who follows them as our kids. We provide medical equipment, and then we have a schedule after sales service, both preventive and corrective maintenance. So these are our engineers who are serving, as I have told you. This is especially CT scan who install and give service. So these are sample products that we have given service. So in most of my Gilando Biomedical Solution has 100 plus employees, and that 40 to 50% of them are biomedical engineers, specializing in different products. And they are trained in Ethiopia and abroad according to their products. So the other one we are providing, in addition to these services, a spare part offer and spare part delivery in each and every customers. So after sales service, our packages include this one, especially we have an emergency response that we have call center. You can use this call center, and in the meantime you are even just doing surgery. If anything happens to your machine, your product, you can call us with it, and we can support remotely. So this is in addition to Ethiopia, we are advancing our services to Africa. We have installed oxygen plant in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea. So this is for Ethiopians to bring hard currency. So this is we are just providing these services outside Ethiopia. The other one we are also giving service in Senegal. As you have seen, we have installed sterilizers in Senegal. As you have seen, these are our units. The other one we are giving us, we have CPD center. So we are affiliated with CPD, and we are providing content professional development. So you can. The other one is the other is saving modality. We can deliver products according to the customer's need, with cash, with credit, or placement. Placement means we give them the product, the medical equipment, and you pay accordingly according to our agreement by paying again. So these are our saving products. So our customers, we are all over Ethiopia, even beyond Ethiopia in Africa. So Bishop Hospital, Reda Hospital, Yoruba in Oromia, and in Amhara Regional Health Bureau, Debraman, Kalagayo. These are sample customers. We have mentioned in Addis Ababa, all hospitals are our customers in different products. So even we are working in division homes. So these are our sample customers. The other is our social corporate responsibility. We are not just the merchants, we are service providers with different health professionals in biomedical engineers. We have awarded in different social corporate responsibilities. As you have seen, we have done maintenance service for 40 plus hospitals in Ethiopia with current right in Sultan. We have given our availability service. The other one, we have, as yesterday, you have been discussing about Marburg virus. So with one, we all just requested from Minister of Health and IMSA, and we just provide this equipment, medical equipment, and just transportation fee, everything. We visit Jinka Hospital, and our biomedical engineers, as you have seen, they were there and providing social corporate responsibility for this Marburg virus prevention control program. The other one, sometimes our activities are not just depend on just selling products. We are also giving donating services. We have sponsored breast cancer surgery campaign, sponsored in our specialized hospital here, and we have donated dialysis machine in different societies. These are our there are some of these services that we have been given to the needy population. responsibility, we sponsor different societies, and we're just working with you. The other one we have also, Waymaker Solution is certified with Ethiopian Quality Award. I was expecting to clap for that. So we are awarded. As our motto, finally, then means no planning. We are qualified and certified with this PQA, and our services, our products are certified partners. So this is our awards. I have finished. በጣም አመሰግናለሁ። በቆራጡ ሰዓት ሄዶብኝ ነው እንጂ ብዙ ሰዓት ተጠቅሜ አይደለም። አመሰግናለሁ።
We'd like to say thank you very much to both of our sponsors for sharing us interesting insights on the technologies that you shared us. So next up, we'd like to say welcome to our distinguished guest, Dr. Lauren King, who is an emergency medicine physician in the Division of Emergency Medicine at the University of Cape Town. Lauren serves as the CEO of the African Federation of Emergency Medicine, AFEM, and has the pleasure of sitting on the board of the International Federation for Emergency Medicine, where she seeks to amplify the perspectives of African emergency care practitioners and align regional priorities with global efforts to strengthen emergency care systems. She has been gracious enough today to join us this morning and share her experience on resuscitation in Louis Hospital. Let's give her a huge applause as she joins us on stage.
Good morning. It is my great pleasure to be here. Thank you so very much for the invitation to address the audience. It is an honor to be in the presence of distinguished guests and delegates, and very big congratulations to the Emergency Society of Ethiopia in coordinating and arranging for this incredible opportunity to share knowledge with one another and to learn with one another. I hope over the next few minutes that we are able to engage in something that I feel very passionate about, and I hope that I'm able to share something with you, and equally look forward to learning and hearing about what has been done in the local setting. We know that the World Health Organization estimates that 17.9 million people die from cardiovascular death, and this was in 2019. We also know that it represents 32% of global deaths, and the number of deaths have increased steadily since 1990. We see in this heat map over here on the right that over 75% of cardiovascular deaths take place in low and middle income countries, predominantly across Asia and Africa, and a review conducted in 2007 estimated that 40 to 50% of cardiovascular deaths are as a result of sudden cardiac death. Based on this, we can project that a staggering 5 to 7 million people will die globally from sudden cardiac arrest, with 75% of the global burden occurring in low and middle income countries. But when we examine global cardiac arrest registries, there are no active national registries in the African region, meaning that we're making evidence-based decisions and recommendations for the majority of the global burden based on data from the minority of affected populations. And so there is no question that we are facing a current challenge, but even more so, a growing challenge in the future. Because by 2030, our global population will reach 8.5 billion, of which 1.7 billion will be residing in Africa alone. And these demographic changes are happening faster than at any time in history. Meanwhile, what we know from the Lancet Global Health Commission is that mortality is rising. We have 8.6 million deaths per year in low and middle income countries, and they estimate that the cardiovascular death accounted for 33% of preventable deaths. And so after several decades of health gains in infectious diseases, in child health, the residual morbidity in low and middle income countries is compromised because of the complex and multi-morbid conditions that we face. And so the implication of this is that as lower income countries undergo demographic and epidemiological transitions, we need to similarly implement public health measures and strengthen the quality of health systems if our health outcomes are able to improve. The intersection is very obvious that increasing cardiac arrest burden, inadequate healthcare quality, and growing populations create the perfect storm which demands our immediate attention. What data do we have from Africa? Fragmented glimpses is really the best that we can offer. Oftentimes it presents basic system descriptions, but little to no outcome registries. Scarce data shows widely that there are varying rates of return of spontaneous circulation from out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, very low survival rates, and poor neurological outcomes. And in low-resource settings with immature or underfunded chains of survival rates can even drop as low as 0%. The scarcity of resources expands into few possibilities for research on or registries about cardiac arrest, which results in reporting or selection bias as a major confounding factor to the available data that is available to us. A special edition of Resuscitation Plus wanted to describe out-of-hospital cardiac arrest systems in different contexts. And there were a series of narrative reviews published from the Democratic Republic of Congo and similarly from a team in South Africa. The epidemiological and clinical data regarding out-of-hospital cardiac arrest was not available, but unpublished data from the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Health Directorate of Cardiovascular Diseases in the Democratic Republic of Congo reports stroke as the predominant contributor to morbidity, representing 53% of cardiovascular-related morbidity and 17% of the overall morbidity from cardiovascular-related mortality, accounting for 35% of its total mortality, which is really significant. In South Africa, the out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, return of spontaneous circulation, rates vary between 1 and 18% with no long-term outcome data. And so it's clear that we don't really understand what the situation is, other than we need more data, and the data that is available to us demonstrates that it's a significant problem, and that it is an increasing problem, and that we're not really able to secure high quality, long-term or neurological outcomes. And so essentially we sit with an evidence vacuum. We sit with the conundrum of having a large problem, but not knowing how to make informed decisions to address, to overcome, to mitigate, to improve the outcomes. And so it's a fundamental issue that undermines global guidelines, because how then can we apply global guidelines if they don't represent the context within which we are operating and the outcomes that we see in our own clinical setting? And it goes without saying that it's everyone's problem. The ILCOR consensus on science with treatment recommendations are generated through rigorous scientific process. They want to seek to evaluate and synthesize evidence for resuscitation interventions. They help direct future research to improve resuscitation outcomes, and they inform the development and updates of resuscitation guidelines. But when entire regions are underrepresented or completely absent from this evidence base, we can't assume that these recommendations are achievable, appropriate, or relevant to settings beyond which the evidence was gathered. And so to this end, a powerful statement was released by ILCOR. It was a statement that was supported by the African Federation for Emergency Medicine, the European Society for Emergency Medicine, the International Federation for Emergency Medicine, and the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. In that statement, they recognize that the international community has made little to no effort to address differences between high resource and low resource settings. And in order to move closer to realization of producing balanced recommendations that are applicable to all settings, they undertake to globally collaborate as an international joint effort. But this is something that's been spoken about for a long time. And so what does this really look like? It's a global responsibility. There is increasing recognition and agreement that this is the case. And it's important for best practice to be implementable. It must balance quality, equity, relevance, and cost effectiveness within diverse health systems. And the one-size-fits-all best care concept doesn't exist, and probably available. And so the question is, how do we start to make recommendations that would be applicable, that could be adaptable, that could be relevant and appropriate? One of the questions that is a difficult question to address, but one that is necessary for us, is in low resource settings where scarcity needs careful priority setting, it's unclear if investment in interventions to address out-of-hospital cardiac arrest represents the best use of resources. And more data is needed to determine optimal allocation of resources. That being said, in a system that is not fully capacitated to support the entire chain of survival, is it then useful to invest at the beginning in out-of-hospital cardiac arrest outcome, or does one need to start in a holistic approach to strengthening the entire system? A cost-effective analysis by Willer et al. Suggests that out-of-hospital cardiac arrest might not be a priority investment in low-resource settings because of poor outcomes and high downstream costs. With survival rates as low as 0% in some resource-limited settings, the opportunity cost of investing in out-of-hospital cardiac arrest versus other interventions becomes an ethical concern as well as a clinical decision. Not in all settings, but particularly where emergency care systems are in early development, perhaps one needs to evaluate the cost effectiveness of out-of-hospital cardiac arrest interventions to better inform resource allocation so that it maximizes health benefits. And while economics should certainly never be the sole driver behind the decisions that one makes on the clinical platform, comparing two or more interventions on the basis of cost and effect plays a critical role in priority setting activities. Should decision makers be faced with the choice of which interventions to adopt, given limited settings and limited resources, the evidence suggests certain parts of the chain of survival may yield higher health returns for finite resources. That being investments in determination of resuscitation protocols, professional pre-hospital defibrillator use, CPR training, and the distribution of AEDs in high-density public locations. And so the argument is not that we ignore out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, but certainly that we prioritize in a way that supports the system within which the patient will progress and the health journey that the patient will encounter from the beginning all the way to the end, whether that is rehabilitation or demise. This brings us to the Global Resuscitation Alliance, who modified the IPSCEN framework of survival for developing emergency care systems. This frame of survival describes the traditional chain of survival, and we recognize, and it has been widely agreed, that the chain of survival is only as strong as its weakest link, and the interdependence between components means that impact is lost if any single element compromises the entire chain. So with the appreciation that upfront and sustained investment in strengthening the chain might not be cost effective, given low survival rates, there was a consensus process in 2017 which led to 74 key stakeholders from 26 countries. They established a process that presented a graded approach to emergency care and chain of survival system strengthening in these contexts. And they developed a modified framework by which nascent emergency care systems can assess and build their emergency capabilities to respond to out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. And so, in the absence of comprehensive data, what does this framework serve to do to inform our guidelines, practice advocacy, and help expenditure decisions? Well, here's a prioritization matrix. It presents a tool that aids in stratifying tasks at hand and determine immediate, intermediate, and long-term goals. And a matrix of this nature could help break down goals into compact tasks, which may be less daunting to work towards. Through the use of the prioritization matrix, the following 10 fundamental elements for improving out-of-hospital cardiac arrest survival in developing emergency care settings were identified. And again, as one maps this to the prioritization matrix, over time, one is then able to benchmark, identify, create milestones and targets to achieve 10 principles in performance of improved out-of-hospital cardiac arrest outcomes. And so where does this lead us? Well, maybe what we should be doing is thinking about the principles, the underpinnings to our approach to resuscitation in low-income countries and low-resource settings. First would be evidence integration. We need systematic integration of existing data from low-resource settings, however limited, into global guidelines. And the WHO's process for integrating diverse evidence streams provides a model for us to do so. Second would be progressive implementation, stepwise implementation, a graded approach. Werner's cost-effectiveness analysis actually provides a roadmap for us, as does the prioritization matrix to support system strengthening and bundles of care over isolated single interventions. The third, quality equity balance. The WHO's Unity for Health concept recognizes that energy invested to improve quality can be detrimental to equity unless we find an equilibrium point between attention to individuals and attention to the population, together with our overall goal to achieve relevance and cost effectiveness. And so, simply put, there's a call to action. Because there is no denying that 3/4 of global cardiac arrest deaths occur when we have virtually no evidence to guide practice. That's not acceptable, and as a global scientific community, we have both the opportunity and obligation to rise to this call to action and to ensure that our evidence base represents the global vision. The question isn't whether we can afford to invest in resuscitation systems for low resource settings, it's whether we can afford not to, given that that's where most of our patients are dying. And so I'm going to leave it here, not with concrete solutions, but with an invitation to engage in more dialogue, to create opportunities for partnerships, for collaboration, for data sharing, for stronger, more comprehensive regional network of research, of data, of registries to inform our own outcomes and not be dependent on the data that doesn't necessarily reflect our clinical settings to inform our clinical practice. Thank you very much for your time.
We'd like to say thank you so much for the interesting presentation that you had on such an important topic for the resource center. So I would like to open up the floor if we have any additional comments or questions before proceeding to the next presentation.
Thank you for the nice presentation. I think it's really important to talk about data, especially in our setting and also in Africa. The issue mainly happening nowadays is not just to start registering. Like we see like some data, like we see like our registering, GIS registering, we see there are some limits. But the problem is now the sustainability and making it uniform, like in every regions, in every country, even in the world, like uniform registration system, which can be utilized and implemented for different areas. So what is your suggestion for the sustainability of those established registries? For resuscitation, the main challenge I think is we don't have a registration at all for out-of-hospital contact. We don't know what's happening, especially for us. Even in hospitals, in hospital contact has been tried some areas. Like we had some registries during the resuscitation, and after the resuscitation, we tried to publish one paper from other hospital. But the issue is not uniform for all, at least even in Ethiopia. So do you have any guidance? How can we improve the sustainability of those registries?
Thank you for the question. I think it's a challenge that we face time and time again. Is one of the reasons that we don't have data, that the data is not being publicly shared, and that the data is not being integrated into the global guidelines. Because the way within which these international bodies are synthesizing the evidence is they are so strict and rigorous in the quality of data that can be included and considered in the development of these guidelines, that very often the data that does exist in low resource settings is insufficient, or they deem it not robust enough to be integrated. And so for that reason, it is not that data doesn't exist, it's that it is internationally recognized as not robust enough to be considered level grade 1, grade 2, level A, level B scientific evidence to inform recommendations. And so your point is really well taken. I think what we are moving towards is we are moving towards potentially a minimum data set. And so there is increasing work, certainly within the WHO, certainly within regional groups, certainly within national departments of health and ministries of health, to identify what is a minimum data set within which one can make informed decisions. Certainly, if we think about it on a system level, it is perhaps a little bit of a unpopular opinion, but if there is no pre-hospital system in place, the question is whether out-of-hospital cardiac arrest is something that should be monitored at all to begin with. And so certainly there are other metrics that one could be looking at in the presence of a pre-hospital system that is still emerging and developing. However, we know that there is data that exists from facilities in terms of in-hospital cardiac arrest. And so there is an opportunity also to model what is being measured for in-hospital cardiac arrest into the out-of-hospital cardiac arrest situation. And so there are ways within which one can extrapolate existing systems, expand existing systems, strengthen existing systems, replicate potentially in-hospital systems or out-of-hospital or pre-hospital systems, using a minimum data set. And then certainly there has to be continuous pressure and push and advocacy that there cannot be a barrier to entry in recommendations in global guidelines simply because the data, it is deemed by the global north bodies that the data is insufficient or is not reliable. Because we will then face a situation where potentially some settings within low middle income countries, not everyone, but some countries will continue to always be excluded, and that simply is not acceptable and not equitable. So we really have to reevaluate what that minimum data set looks like, and it has to be something that is achievable across the board, not necessarily for all of the recommendations, but certainly for a subset of the recommendations.
One comment and one question. The comment would be, it's not just the idea of sustainability here, but even the data that is kind of collected is usually tied to research projects and which are really locked down and not accessible to the local users. I think with the work of such studies, and we can get the data, but we don't have any access to it. And because it's usually tied to a research project and they want to publish it, so it's under some sort of lockdown. My question would be why I second the idea of extrapolating data from in-hospital settings and applying it to out-of-hospital recommendations, or even coming up with new recommendations for in-hospital cardiac arrest with the existing data that is in Africa. Somebody needs to start doing that at some point. So is there a team or something in Africa which plans to generate guidelines with whatever data is available in Africa? Because I feel like if you guys started because you have the international recognition acceptance, I think other people will adopt or even try to accept your recommendations. So that would be my question.
Thank you so much for your question. It touches on a topic that I'm particularly passionate about, and it is so encouraging for me to be in scientific events like this where all of this is coming up so frequently and oftentimes because we're reaching a critical mass where we have experts and we have expertise and we have clinicians and researchers locally who are capacitated and motivated and have the momentum to drive the right kind of agenda and the right approach. My comment would be first towards your question about research projects that are isolated, and there are restrictions to the use of data. And my response to that is simply unacceptable. If there is a partner that is working in a local setting, that is extracting data from that local setting without disseminating that back in the interest of the local community, simply unacceptable. And it is not necessarily for us to accept that that is the status quo. It is for us to challenge, and I encourage anyone in the audience and wider to challenge that status quo. Before research projects begin, there needs to be very clear data sharing agreements, data transfer agreements, and certainly the data that is being collected should be the property and should be accessible to the local communities within which that data is being collected. Otherwise, it's simply unethical. There is no question, there's no going around it, there's no trying to find a way through it, simply unethical. And so the way in which we address global health partnerships, equitable partnerships, international collaborations, regional collaborations, whether they are North-South partnerships, South-South partnerships, that has to be something that is standard. It's something that's within area we are addressing. The wheels turn slowly, but we have started a consensus process around equitable partnerships and around contextualized emergency care within the African setting. And one one of the components is the way in which research is conducted, where the research sits, how the research is disseminated, and who owns the data. The other is in terms of how to support existing efforts. And so very recently, the WHO released the pre-hospital toolkit, which accompanies and supports and supplements the in-hospital emergency care toolkit. And so in that way, it creates a series of resources, both in terms of process tools, both in terms of setting up registries, in terms of identifying data sets, in terms of doing system analysis, and in terms of introducing training packages. Because we believe that in order to address this, there has to be a holistic, multi-pronged system level approach, not necessarily just the isolated focus on one particular condition or one particular area. And so in that way, AFM is supporting, in the same way that it supported the emergency care toolkit for in-hospital system strengthening, we're now moving to likewise doing the same in the pre-hospital setting, which will have the knock-on effects in terms of out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. But we have always stated, even in our scientific processes, that out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, as an unpopular opinion, may not be one of the top clinical priorities that we look to as we strengthen emergency care systems as a whole, simply because of the investment and the incredible downstream impacts that it has with very poor returns. And so our focus in the pre-hospital setting is not necessarily out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, but we believe that those outcomes will strengthen and improve over time as a byproduct of everything else around the system strengthening. But data across the board is mandatory, whether you're thinking about cardiac arrest or response times or fleet deployment or workforce management. Data is really important, and it's something that we're looking to establish a position in very soon into the future.
Thank you very much, Dr. Laura, and thank you for the audience for participating and asking important questions. I think it's important to take it home message that we all of us need to consider, so how to redesign this resuscitation guidelines, which are evidence-based, while yet being realistically applied to the resource setting. It's a very insightful discussion.
One more question.
Good question. Thank you so much, Dr. Lauren, for joining us. We're honored to have you. Thank you for remark. It's only not limited to cardiac arrest-related data challenges. It can be extrapolated to different data related factors. Currently in low and developing nation, we are having significant awareness on data quality, awareness and gap in having investment in data, especially in policy level government. In the not only the government, those NGOs, funders, still the weight is on TB, HIV, malaria. Of course, that is something we need to invest in. But there are areas, high burden areas, life-threatening areas, where the policy can be shaped by having such detailed data. So I think as a region, my comment is we need to advocate much more and have the regional collaboration like South-South collaboration, within nation nearby East African collaboration, joining the African and IFM and the rest of global partnership is very essential to have high quality data for policy shaping, as well as even the direction of investment can be shaped by having the detailed data, as otherwise a decision will be being the era of evidence-based medicine, evidence-based therapies, having limited data and awareness on some of coronary would cost us, life and as well as our community in danger. So I think this is something we are looking for as a society. We are looking for. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the active engagement. I'm sure we will do many segments to your platform once we are shared. So next up, we have a presentation by our very own Dr. Gabriel Beza, Executive Board Member of ISEC and Chief Editor of Pageant. She will present us collaborative projects between ISEC and Grand College of Emergency. Yes, Dr. Beza.
brief presentation ነው። እንደምታውቁት ኢሴክ ባለፉት 10 ወራት አንድ ፕሮጀክት ቢያደርጉ የፕሮጀክቱ ያው አልቋል። ዲሴምበር ጃንዋሪ በሚመጣ present ማድረግ what was the project about, what activity has been done, so the presentation of my project title ነበረ ምን ኦብጀክቲቮች ነበሩ ምን ሜጀር አቺቭመንቶች አድርጓለሁ። so the project was strengthening emergency and critical care capacity in Ethiopia ነበረ። ያው ፈንድ ተደረገው በጂፒ collaboration with Royal College funded by UK Department of Health and Social Care, DHS የሚባል ነው። so the project was in collaboration with Royal College of Emergency Medicine ጋር ነው ክሎዝሊ ሲሰራ የነበረው የ10 ወር ታይም ላይ ነበረው። so this was the project aim. የመጀመሪያው እንግዲህ good evaluate whether these are achieved or not. So delivering a comprehensive EC training for frontline health workers or professionals ነው የመጀመሪያው objective ወይም ደግሞ የፕሮጀክቱ deliverables. The second was enhancing leadership capacity among professionals in emergency and critical care with the other deliverables. So the third one is strengthening research capacity within emergency and critical care field. So this aim was to generate evidence on different aspects, especially related with other deliverables that I mentioned earlier. The other our deliverables, which is really important to improve the qualities of health professionals, especially in emergency and critical care, is developing and implementing a national accreditation framework for emergency care training that it has been discussed yesterday from the people, delegate from EPA, and as well as Dr. Tasfai also presented that, you remember. So achieving accreditation for universities to deliver a standardized emergency care training. This was the objective. So to begin with, the deliverables as I mentioned is giving basic training. The plan was basic and theory training for professionals, specifically for nurses, the frontline workers. So the plan was, the project plan was to give 230 BEC, basic BEC training. So the achievement was 309. That's basic. So the theory, the plan was 13 and the achievement was 44. So the total, the achievement is 356. street, but the plan was DC. So the first project is active. So just to see the distribution where the training was given, pilots አዲስ አበባ ነው በዋናነት ብሎ ስፔሻሊ ቲዮሪ was focused there. ደብረ ብርሃን የዚህ ክልልና አዲስ አበባ ሻሸመኔ ጣሊያንባ ወራቤ ጂንካ አሶሳ ቦጋና ሰመራ so as I mentioned earlier the plan was to under 70 but because of the effective handling of the project we tried to we work with these, these areas were marked by these hotels, with their collaborators. So the situation was to keep for 5 regions, but we reached for more than that, as you can see. This is the professional trend on the DEC. The program aimed to give more training for nurses. So as you can see, 850 nurses were trained. So other professionals also involved. So the other objective deliverables I showed earlier, the leadership training for professionals. So the plan was to give 17 members to be trained on leadership, especially in leadership. So we call out on open notice in this Telegram group, so we gave 17 applicants from region and countries as well. So they were given access to take the training. So currently 16 members only completed this certification, but access is still on for them. So the other is the research activity. So the research deliverables. The project aims to do 3 research, specifically on DEC leadership and others. The project was handled by our members, so the lead was Dr. Claude. I'm going to thank Dr. Claude. The plan was 3, but what we have achieved is 7 research. So 5 of them manuscript is ready for the 2. One is IIT pending and one is on data collection. So this is a huge achievement. So I would love to applaud. For this we also want to thank the Royal College of Emergency Medicine. It was a huge support from their aid, and so this is a huge achievement. The other is accreditation activity. Dr. Kasai mentioned a lot about it. So what has been achieved is assessment standard. The framework is already completed. Rubrics completed. ECP completed. SSS is also done. And the standard has been reviewed, the assessment standard, validated by validation workshop in collaboration with stakeholders from these hotels. And we are very lucky the assessment is submitted to ETA. So now we are in a good shape to apply for accreditation. If you are ready, the process is not easy. Many of our institutions a long way to go to achieve the standard, the 9 standard established by the EPA. So if you are ready, you can. So the other achievement in this is, to be assessed and apply for accreditation, there should be an assessor. So assessor training was delivered for 16 members of the society. So it looks like we are in good shape to that. So the other theme then, so this project is experience sharing activity. So we're talking to the College of Emergency Medicine. 2 senior faculties have got a chance to go to one of the UK university to see areas, specifically emergency and ICU. So system started with education in hospital areas where visited by to senior faculty from our society. So we were impressed. The area was in UK, Leicester, one of the biggest emergency care area. So this is the emergency floor they have. You can see how it is complicated. And this is the emergency entry point, so this is the emergency. So the faculty who went to the UK Leicester Royal Infirmary University Hospital at Leicester. This was the area where the two senior faculty visited, just to show you some of the interesting picture taken by these people. So this is the red resuscitation here. This is the resuscitation here. This is one that looks like ICU. So this is the ambulance. The ambulance is same. The size, the status, everything is the same. This is the ambulance. It looks like ambulance. So this is the resource that you can access in front of the resuscitation. So the faculties who went to the area share the experience to the members, and also they also advise the ministry or responsible stakeholders. So this is just like an inland now set up. So this is the system they have. They call it nerve center. So a physician or a nurse will not expected to go to the patient to see what is happening. So everything in the system, so it's quite complicated, but it's easy and under the professionals. The emergency capacity of the emergency that I showed you is 1,000 patients in a day. It's very huge kind of emergency. So this is the other equipment that is in front of the resuscitation. So this is something that has captured the attention of those who visited the area. This is how they locate the area. You know, if you want to go to Ely, you just go following the green line. You no need to ask anyone. The line will take you wherever you want. So this is something that we can This is not an increase. This is just a scheme. Let's worship it. Easy. The other thing that we can adapt in our setup is the rack I showed you earlier. So all the materials are available like this. If you want to, if you have a patient with sepsis, you can pick the seat without any proposal to find it. The other thing is a blood bank. Is a blood bank is scanless, so if someone wants to take the blood from this block, it should be scanned and the person should get a permission to do that. It's already locked, and the moment the blood given to the specific patient, a system will message to the person who donated the blood. So that way we encourage people to give blood. So I think my blood is somewhere else. So that is a system. So the other interesting thing that's shared by the team is in the emergency there are different teams that handle everything. So there is the operation team, strategic, they do the strategic work. That's not better than those physicians working in this area. There is a team, discharge team, education team, frequent attendance team, patient safety. So nothing comes to the specific physician that's working in the website. This is also something. The other, as a Minister of Health, the universities in UK is managed by National Health Service, which is a national, which funds the health system. That funding is came from the general taxation. So everybody went to the hospital and might be managed for free. So this is the CPD, Continuous Professional Development. As you can see, this is a person working in the ED. So there is a required training and there is a special training that a single person, a single professional should take. It's a mandatory to license and relicense. So there are people that follow and check and remind a specific staff to take this course. And that specific professional is also reminded and demanded, and if not is taking, they go in person and tell them to take. If not, they will not be practicing in that specific area. And so this is how they keep updated. The other activity done in this project, which is not planned before, is digitalizing the CPD course. You know that SEC is a CPD provider, so as a direction from the Ministry of Health, face-to-face training is not encouraged this time. Either it should be hybrid or it should be online. So keeping that in mind, so is the society train people who design an online course with this project, and we got a website specific to online CPD, and that, as you can see over there, so we train 16 members of our society as a community expert and panel